Most people don't remember when their family first bought one. They remember where it stood. A glowing snowman in the front window. Always facing the street. Always turned on before sunset. It didn't blink. It didn't move. But every winter, it quietly told the neighborhood the same thing. Christmas had started. Tonight, we're going back to the forgotten story behind that snowman, and why so many homes stopped lighting it without ever saying goodbye. If you grew up in mid-century America, there's a good chance you remember this clearly. A snowman standing in a front window. Made of plastic. Lit from the inside. Glowing softly against the dark winter street. It wasn't flashy. It didn't move. But it was always there. For many families, this snowman became one of the earliest and most reliable signs that Christmas had arrived. Tonight, we're going to look at where these illuminated snowmen came from, why they became so common in the 1950s and 60s, who placed them in their windows, and why so many people still remember them decades later. And by the end, we'll talk about why they quietly disappeared, even though no one remembers deciding to let them go. How winter was decorated earlier. Before glowing snowmen appeared in American windows, Christmas decoration was simpler and more restrained. In the early 20th century, winter displays relied on paper cutouts, tinsel, glass ornaments, and candles placed carefully in windowsills. Snowmen already existed as symbols, appearing in postcards, children's illustrations, and winter advertising, but they were flat images, not physical objects. They represented winter without danger, cold without hardship, a friendly figure in a harsh season. But there was no easy way to turn that image into something durable, affordable, and safe for everyday homes. That changed after World War II. The post-war home and the rise of plastic. The late 1940s and early 1950s brought enormous changes to American households. Factories that had produced wartime materials shifted toward consumer goods. Plastics became inexpensive, moldable, and widely available. Electricity was now standard in nearly every home. This combination allowed manufacturers to create something new, lightweight, hollow decorations that could be lit safely from the inside. Snowmen were an obvious choice. They were non-religious, friendly, and familiar to both children and adults. Unlike Santa figures, they didn't feel commercial. Unlike angels, they didn't feel formal. They felt neutral and welcoming. After World War II, the American home quietly transformed, and plastic was at the center of that change. Factories that once produced military equipment were retooled to manufacture consumer goods, and plastics, cheap, moldable, and modern, symbolized progress and optimism. By the late 1940s and into the 1950s, plastic entered daily life in ways previous generations could never have imagined. Kitchenware, toys, furniture accents, and eventually holiday decorations. For families settling into new suburban homes, plastic felt clean, safe, and forward-looking, perfectly aligned with a culture eager to move past wartime scarcity. Lighted Christmas figures, snowmen, Santas, candles, were a natural extension of this shift. They were unbreakable compared to glass, affordable for middle-class households, and easy to store year after year. These decorations reflected a post-war mindset that valued durability, order, and consistency. Once purchased, they became part of the home's seasonal rhythm, appearing in the same window every December, quietly glowing as symbols of stability, prosperity, and a future that finally felt secure. When the snowman moved into the window. By the early 1950s, American companies such as Union Products and smaller regional manufacturers began producing molded plastic holiday figures. These snowmen were typically 1 to 2 feet tall. They were hollow, painted simply, and designed to hold a single incandescent bulb. Some wore top hats. Some held candy canes. Some tipped their hats politely. They were sold in hardware stores, 5-and-dime shops, department stores, and seasonal aisles, often without much fanfare. That was important. These decorations didn't require a special purchase or long planning. Families bought them the same way they bought extension cords or wrapping paper. And once they came home, they tended to stay. Who bought them and why they worked? Children noticed the snowmen immediately. From the sidewalk, the glow made them feel alive. They looked like part of the house, not something placed there temporarily. Parents, especially mothers, appreciated something else. These decorations were easy. They didn't require explanation. They didn't require rearranging furniture. They didn't conflict with decor. You plugged them in. You placed them near the window. And Christmas was visible. Grandparents liked them for different reasons. They were quiet. They didn't blink or flash. They didn't demand attention. Many people remember grandparents insisting the snowman face outward, so the neighbors can see. That detail comes up again and again in memory. Windows as a neighborhood language. In the 1950s and 60s, the front window played an important role. It wasn't just glass. It was communication. A lit snowman told the street, "This house is ready for the season. This family participates. This is a welcoming place." Entire neighborhoods shared this language. One house had a snowman. Another had candle silhouettes. Another had a Santa. People remember which house had two figures. Which snowman leaned slightly. Which one flickered when the wind picked up. These details stayed because the displays were consistent. They appeared year after year in the same place. A decoration that didn't change. One reason these snowmen became so memorable is that they didn't evolve quickly. They didn't follow trends. They didn't get replaced every season. Families took them out of the same box each December, wrapped in tissue paper, sometimes yellowed with age. The cord was wound carefully. The bulb tested once. The placement chosen almost automatically. There was comfort in that sameness. Christmas felt reliable. When things started to shift. By the late 1970s and early 1980s, Christmas decoration began to change. Decorations became larger. Lights blinked and flashed. Inflatables appeared. Stores stopped carrying the smaller illuminated figures. Plastic yellowed over time. Bulbs burned out. Snowmen were boxed away. Most weren't thrown out. They were stored. Basements, closets, garages. And many families didn't realize it was the last year they would use them. Why people still search for them. Today, collectors and casual shoppers look for these snowmen at flea markets, estate sales, and online listings. Not because they're rare. Not because they're valuable. But because they restore something familiar. They remind people of earlier sunsets, quieter streets, evenings when lights were left on longer. They belong to a version of Christmas that didn't feel rushed. A Christmas that didn't need volume to feel present. What these snowmen really represent. These decorations were never meant to be centerpieces. They were signals. They said, "Winter is here. The season has started. The house is ready." They didn't perform. They waited. And sometimes that's what people miss most. If you ever see one of these snowmen glowing in a window today, it stops you. You slow down. You look twice. Because for a moment, the past feels close. Still watching the street. Still marking the season. Still saying quietly, "Christmas is here." Did your family have one of these snowmen? And if they did, where did it stand? Before you go, think for a moment. Did your family have one of these lighted window figures? A snowman, a Santa, candle silhouettes? And if they did, which window did it always stand in? You can share it in the comments. Someone reading it will recognize their own memory there.